Hey, Mike, how's it going?
Good, Frank. Welcome to Perspective Shift.
Yes, welcome.
How are you doing this week?
I'm doing really well.
Anything cool?
Yeah, it was Easter,
Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Did you? Yeah, I went on, actually on, me and Karen, on Friday, we went to, we went to St. Andrews.
Oh, nice. So you did go to a mass?
We didn't go to mass. We went after it was all done, but we did the stations ourselves. There was one other person in the church.
My parents did that.
Yeah, so we just did the stations ourselves, and it was nice.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had the church to ourselves.
That's funny that it was empty.
Yeah, because it was later on in the, I think it was right before we went to dinner. I can't recall.
So like 6:30 or 7 or
It might
something?
have been after we went. No, we went to dinner first, that's why.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it's super late.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't too late, but the church was open, so I walked in. I took some money out of the money box.
After hours?
Yeah, I looked around.
I knew I could get away with it.
Money. Grab some Easter money.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing that was cool and exciting that I did this week, I actually didn't even tell you yet when we were chatting before this, but Kayla and I, we went to this float spa, and I've never done this sensory deprivation.
Yeah, it is.
Okay?
It's wild.
And so, dude, this was cool. So for anybody out there that doesn't know what this is, so we've got these like float spa things. I'm sure they're available all around the U.S. Or anywhere. But you go in to essentially this like pod, and the pod is filled with like some neutral water, and it's got a ton of Epsom salt. And so the water forces you to float to the top. So the point is no sound, no light, and then weightlessness, no body.
Yeah.
And you're just floating there. And so taking away all those different sensory distractions, you're stuck with only you and your consciousness. And it was one hell of an experience.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'll definitely go back. It was very cool just to kind of, I don't know how, the weightlessness factor I've never experienced because, of course, we meditate every day and things like that. And I'm good at tuning out, or I'm comfortable and used to tuning things out as far as sight and sound go. But the weightlessness factor was new to me, not feeling the body. That was cool.
Which one did you go to?
I'm not sure what the name is. I'd have to look. Yeah. It's not Warner McClintock. It was in Chandler actually.
There's a couple of them.
Yeah, but very cool.
Yeah.
And very nice. You like walk in, you like take a shower real quick, and then you jump in your pod.
Yeah.
And then after you get out of the pod, you shower off because you have all the Epsom salt and stuff on you. And I don't know if anybody at home also bathes in Epsom salt or takes like an Epsom bath, but like. It's that feeling when you get out. I don't know how to explain it, but like it loosens all the muscles. Your body feels refreshed.
Yeah, salt will pull impurities out of your system.
Okay, that's it.
So yeah, actually, it's interesting because like I was talking about this with somebody. A good way to actually tune your body is you don't have to do it in the depth. You can go in there and do that, but if you just fill your bathtub up with hot water and put Epsom salt in it,
I do that all the time,
and put sound frequency healing on whatever frequency you want to add to the body. This will actually help. The sound will help tune your body, and the Epsom salt will help draw out the negative energy of it.
I didn't know.
Yeah,
I do that all the time.
Yeah, so. What they're finding out, what they know now is in some of the tombs in Egypt, I was taught as a young kid there were tombs, or the pyramids were tombs, but they weren't. Well, I shouldn't say they weren't. Not all of them were. Mm-hmm. A lot of them were healing centers, and what they found in these pyramids, they found these structures. They look like coffins. That's probably why, but they were tubs, and they were made of crystal. So they would fill it up with water, and the water came from, the Nile, and it had salt in it. So they put it in there. When someone would get in there, it had, they were anticipating someone had like a really bad disease, such as equal to cancer or whatever. Mm-hmm. What they do is they would strike the tub, and it would have its own frequency, and it vibrates to the water because water picks up is a great
conductor,
a very good conductor. So again, it costs a lot of money to find a bathtub that would be
made out of crystal.
Yeah. But you can actually somewhat mimic it by putting in your in your bathtub, but put on headphones and put a sound frequency healing for yada yada yada. So whatever it is, there's
Different frequencies, hertz, etc.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a multitude of them, and even when you use the binaural beats, which are really good, because the brain has to differentiate between the two frequencies, so it helps do that. So there's a lot of studies on sound frequency now. And obviously his deprivation things are really good too. So I know Joe Rogan
does he?
did a lot. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know he does that.
He has one.
Oh, he has one?
Yeah. I've done it probably
That's cool.
15 times.
You've done it?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, it's wild.
It is wild.
Yeah, the first time I did it, and I've been meditating for years, so I went in there. The first time I did it, I can't recall how the time. It was a little bit anxious.
Oh really?
Yeah.
I didn't feel that.
But then all of a sudden, after that, it's like boom.
See, the thing that I was worried about my head. I was so uncomfortable letting my head go down.
Did they give you a neck thing?
They did.
Yeah.
But like I don't know. I was like, Mike, I'm forcing this. I'm resisting. I need to let go. And so finally I let go, and I allowed like my ears to sink underneath the water and my body truly go limp. Yeah, thank you. And it was like, oh, this is how it's supposed to be. Because at first I was trying to like hold my head above water so my ears wouldn't get wet, even though I had earplugs in. And I'm like, I'm doing this wrong because I can feel the force, and I'm resisting. And so when I let go and into it, I sank down a little bit, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And I was just like in that zone. It took me about 10 minutes to get into it because they play like 5 minutes worth of music and then 10 more minutes. And then I fell into like that deep nothingness.
And if you keep doing it, because the first time I did it at this place, and you just went in the back, and the woman didn't really, it was at a yoga studio.
Okay.
And she didn't really explain a lot. But then the second one I went to, I forgot the name of it, but you go in and they had you staring at a kaleidoscope.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Beforehand? They played this screen of like mandalas and like different geometric
kaleidoscopes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they are.
Same thing.
Yeah, all right. So you do that. So the second time I did it, when I went to that place, that was not my second time. It was a different place I went to. By the time I went in there, right from the get-go, I was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty
I thought it was cool that they did that before. They show you these visuals before you get in the tank, because then when it goes black, you naturally start to see it.
Yeah, and it also helps calm you down. So when you're looking at a kaleidoscope or mandalas, which is kaleidoscope, it actually, you stop thinking. It's just patterns, and that's, we learn to get into a frequency. So the electromagnetic field the heart puts out has a pattern. But when I'm worried, what's the pattern look like?
Yeah.
And the pattern then is transferred into the water in my body and the cells in my body. So as we start to learn your thoughts, what they do, how they permeate out into the universe, and how they affect our physiology, you'll stop worrying.
I love that.
Because you don't have to worry about worrying. If you really knew, and then if you really knew, by not worrying, everything works out, you wouldn't need to worry anymore. And as you sit there and trust this vessel we have, and placing a frequency into it and watching things unfold, all of a sudden worrying becomes less. It becomes nonsensical, which is going to start us off with talking about the one we're going to talk about today.
Yes, I'm excited. So today we're going to be talking about Florence Scovel Shinn.
Yeah.
So we've got a good episode for you guys today. Where should we start?
Well, let's start. So to come to an understanding, she's she was born in 1871 in Camden, New Jersey.
Okay.
All right, and she was an artist and an illustrator as well.
Yep.
So it's not really clear how she got into this stuff, but I think it's just along the way, her artistry and keeping open mind. But by 1925, which is like into her 50s already, she had self-published her first book.
Okay, yeah.
And
her most well-known book too, in my opinion. I feel like a lot of people have seen this or heard it, read it.
Yeah. So she had that book published, and that's when she hit the scene. So she hit this.
That book is called what is it? The book or the Game of Life and How to Play It, right?
Yes, the Game of Life and How to Play It. And so when you read it, and also too, what she references, and she's not the only one, but she references the Bible in a different way of looking at some of the passages. And
a more metaphysical way to look at the passages.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so looking at it from a different perspective, and she explains it really well. And it's funny because, like, me and Mike were talking about it, like, we find it fascinating that someone in 1925 is talking about this stuff. But again, this
Not
stuff's
that
been
long
around
ago.
millennia,
Yeah.
so we keep forgetting. It's just that right now there's a plethora of people talking about this. And because of social media, the ability to record YouTube, all these other stuff, you're starting to see more and more people, hence like me and Mike doing Perspective Shift now.
Yep.
It's actually becoming mainstream.
Yep. More and more people
More and
are
more
opening
mainstream.
up to these
And-
ideas and concepts.
Yeah, and this with just different ways of talking about different angles of coming out the same thing. And it's just interesting because when you go back to find literature on this stuff, say back in the turn of the 1900s, there isn't a whole lot, right? But you have her. You know, you had Florence writing about this stuff.
And I think that's real unique, the fact that, for this time period, her being a woman, there's a lot of different cool factors for this. And like you were saying with the Bible, that was something during this time that people really like looked to and turned to, as for meaning, for inspiration, to figure out.
Yeah, they always have.
Yeah,
It's been
yeah,
around,
absolutely. It's just we have, with technology and things like that, access to all religions now, et cetera, where before, coming from where she came from, the Bible, it was
Yeah, it's Camden, New Jersey.
that's it. Like they had the Bible. And so to see her read this and take the scripture and apply it the way that, we, experience and see how the scripture is written, it's very cool to kind of hear it from over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That this has been carried on, these different
it's
ideas
actually
and
almost,
concepts.
in 2025 will be 100 years.
Yeah, that's
since it was published. Yeah.
Long time.
So, and that's what it is. So, she gives a different viewpoint, and today we could see it. So she looks at it. A lot of people sometimes will take the Bible literally in its form, but this is more metaphoric in the understanding.
And Jesus even said, I teach in parables, like I speak in
Yeah.
To take the Bible literally, is
Well, that's what
it can be a misinterpretation at times.
It can be, but even metaphorically it can be as well. But again, I think, is it misinterpretation or is it interpretation I'm ready for? And I think we spoke about this before. As we start to become more, we become present and more conscious. Every moment at a time, as I'm expanding, my interpretation is going to be slightly different.
Absolutely.
So I stop holding on to an interpretation, because in each form. But I can see how all of them work. But once I say you must look at it this way, even for me, something feels weird now.
No,
I
you're
can't
right.
do that. Yeah. So it's cool. So everyone.
There's no right or wrong way to look at the Bible.
No. And a lot of people are taking the Bible now, even like there's a physicist, Harmon.
Arnimi, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
The guy with the longer hair.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that guy's name? He did the expo.
Yes.
You told me about him.
Yeah. So I've
He's
heard
a physicist.
Yeah, he's a physicist. He's a quantum physicist, and he actually talked about he just briefly. I listened to talk about the Bible and his translation from what he understood through quantum physics, and then some relatable aspect or some scripture from the Bible. So you're starting to see a lot of people use it, and the reason being is it's one of the most widely read books on the planet.
Yep.
Even if you're not Christian, you looked at it.
You're aware of it.
Yeah, very aware of it. And then, but Florence is one of the first people that I know that actually really dove into it in the mystical aspect of it, and it actually makes it light, like talking about how your thoughts carry out through the day, how you speak will actually bring you what you want. But we were taught
The power of the word.
Yeah. So we were taught that you must do this, this, and this to get this. All right. So we created this very rigid way of getting things, and that's why some people, if you did this, this, and this, and some people came in with the attributes to do that, their belief, they got it. It's like, oh, see, they did it. But they had the attributes to do it. So if I actually made up a story that says, if you can play the guitar really well, you'll own kingdoms. So if you came out and played the guitar really well and you believed it, you would start to own kingdoms. But that's not why you own kingdoms, because you believe, because I was able to play the guitar very well, I can own kingdoms. So that allowed me to believe into it and move into the area where kingdoms came my way, so to speak. But the opposite could be told. If you're a great musician, you're going to be poor. We've heard that before too.
Starving artist.
Yeah, and
a lot of people think that.
Yeah, they do. It's because it's a mantra, or, it's what we believe. So we speak that word, and the word we speak is the word we get back.
Scovel's really big about affirmations too.
Yeah, I think they all are. But affirmations, we start to talk about affirmation. I want to clarify. An affirmation is something you feel prior to the word in which you say. Because I could tell someone I love them, but I have to feel love in order to have a genuine understanding. Or I could have hatred and fear in me, and I could just say, I love you, just to know the response to the other person, but you don't really mean it. So the intent behind the word fulfills the whole.
And this is where New Age woo-woo stuff doesn't take it far enough, is they don't touch on that aspect of the importance of the feeling behind it. It's not just a constant saying, and expecting it. It's like you have to feel it. Like that, an affirmation is a prayer. These are the same things.
Like I know people, I go to the house and have like on the refrigerator, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy, I'm wealthy. And I'm like, when are you going to take that down? I'm like, because wealthy people don't walk around saying they're wealthy. They just are. This is where they're at. So, and this is where in the Bible it says the rich get rich, the poor get poor. It's how what direction we're looking. If you're looking west and move west, you'll get more west. If you look east and walk east, you'll get more east. Now, just for argument's sake, say west is prosperity and east is poverty. All right, and I'm just using this just as an example. And if you move east, you're going to experience poverty. That's how physics is. If you move west, you're going to experience wealth. Now, again, for anyone that jumps in the middle of this clip, I'm just using that as an example. Whatever direction you move in with the feeling. So if you feel wealthy, regardless if you have $5 in your pocket, I don't care. You have $5 in your pocket. You have the ability, even in today, it's 2022. If you have $5 and you claim that you're wealthy, abundant, that $5 will grow to 10 to 10,000 and so on and so forth. The same physics goes if I say I have $5 and I'm impoverished, so I only have $5. Well, that $5 will slowly turn to $250. Now I owe $5. Now I owe $10,000. Mm-hmm. The physics works equally in both directions.
We have the power to direct.
Yes. Now, if you understand, so people are claiming in the moment in which you're in right now, say, well, this is it. And in the world in which we live in, no one could claim $5 is abundant. I'm like, that's because you're buying into that. All right. So once you are able to feel that $5 is, you feel the abundance and you move towards it, you don't really need the affirmation. You are affirmed. You are the affirmation. You be that feeling in which you do it. So now it's like, you can like, wow, I am abundant. Mm-hmm. All right. Because I turned 5 into 10. Well, you're moving in the right direction. You're abundant. Oh, I noticed my 5 went to 250. I am lacking. How do I turn that around? Well, we're alchemists. You could turn fear into courage. You could turn hatred into love. You just have to face the direction of love. You have to face the direction of courage. Once you face the direction of courage, it draws you. It pulls you. Once I face west, whether I walk east or west, walking has the same effect or effort. But the direction I face in and I start walking, I'll get more of. But if I want to go west and I'm facing east and walking, it becomes problematic because I actually want to go west. Mm-hmm. So once you start to understand these laws that are, that someone like Florence actually lays out in her understanding, and she experienced it, you start to see the world unfold in front of you. So we are actually telling the story prior to experiencing the story. And that's what it is. So you wake up in the morning, what's your day going to be like? Well, my day's going to be amazing. Mm-hmm. And then people are like, why? I'm like, you can't say the why. When I come home at night and I'm ready to go to bed, I'll tell you why. I'll make up a story and tell you why. But right now, my day's going to be amazing. Why? I'm like, because amazing is a feeling. It's not a why. Now, at the end of the day, I can jot down the story just to intrigue people, intrigue myself. Wow, this happened,
Mm-hmm.
But when you make the statement, my day's going to be amazing, and you truly feel it. And one of the best ways to feel it is to let go of what has to happen. We have no idea. We're not in control of that.
The ego thinks we need to know, but
like, what's one of her favorite famous quotes? Is like
I wrote down a few.
Yeah. That one about
the no man is your enemy, no man is your friend.
No Not that one. I think it was the one. What's the last one?
Most people consider life a battle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
The quote is, most people consider life a battle. I actually didn't finish writing that portion down.
It's not a battle, it's a game.
Yeah.
And if you understand the game, you actually set forth the frequency in which you want to experience in the moment, and each moment begets a moment. Again, it's a completely different moment. I can go from feeling exciting, and then if something happens in the outside world and I'm attached to the outside world, it can change it. But if you actually focus on the inner sanctity of you, and you just feel excited every moment, every experience you have will be exciting. Regardless, because I can tell them, like, oh my God, you're not going to believe what happened. I got into a car accident and I met this person. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You got into a car accident? What the hell? I thought you had an exciting day. I did. Let me finish the story. Like, what do you mean? Well, when I crashed in this guy and, all of a sudden it's like I was looking for a business partner. He happened to be my business partner. I was like, oh, but the person I was telling the story got hung up on the fact that I got into a car accident.
Yep.
Right?
We're always looking for that struggle, that pain. What is
it? And all of a sudden I was over. It's not that I'm asking for the car accident. I'm like, oh, let me hit another car tomorrow and my luck will change. I'm like, no, it's not what we're saying, but something like that can happen. And when it happens, if you surrender to it, this is when the world opens up. In the beginning, we don't get to say whether it rains or not. When we accept everything, all of a sudden, it's interesting. On your wedding day, it doesn't rain. And what I mean is you have some intuitive power to say get married on this day, not that day, or what have you. However you want to look at it. But in the beginning, if you want to control the outside world, you have to control your inner world. And once we control the inner world, it seemingly looks like we control the outside world. There's so many facets out there. I'm not here to prove that I'm controlling the outside world. But if I control the way I think about the outside world, how I feel about it, how I perceive it, I'm actually controlling the outside world. Because what's going on out there, it's a projection. Everything literally is going on within me. So I have the ability to control how I feel. And how I feel will then generate my experience into the present moment.
That's a perfect segue into this first video, because it talks about the ideas of success and failure. So let's jump into this.
All right.
People never ask a man who is a failure, what is the secret of your failure? It is quite easy to see, and they are not interested. People all want to know how to open the secret door to success. For each man there is success, but it seems to be behind a door or wall. In the Bible reading, we had heard the wonderful story of the falling of the walls of Jericho. Of course, all biblical stories have a metaphysical interpretation. We will talk now about your wall of Jericho, the wall separating you from success. Nearly everyone has built a wall around his own Jericho. This city you are not able to enter contains your great treasures, your divinely designed success, your heart's desire. What kind of wall have you built around your Jericho? Often it is a wall of resentment. Resenting someone or resenting a situation shuts off your good. If you are a failure and resent the success of someone else, you are keeping away your own success. I have given the following statement to neutralize envy and resentment. What God has done for others, He now does for me and more. A woman was filled with envy because a friend had received a gift. She made this statement, and an exact duplicate of the gift was given her, plus another present. It was when the children of Israel shouted that the walls of Jericho fell down. When you make an affirmation of truth, your wall of Jericho totters. I gave the following statement to a woman. The walls of lack and delay now crumble away, and I enter my promised land under grace. She had a vivid picture of stepping over a fallen wall and received the demonstration of her good almost immediately. It is the word of realization which brings about a change in your affairs, for words and thoughts are a form of radioactivity. Taking an interest in your work, enjoying what you are doing opens the secret door of success. A number of years ago, I went to California to speak at the different centers by way of the Panama Canal, and on the boat I met a man named Jim Tolley. For years, he has been a tramp. He calls himself the king of the hobos. He was ambitious and picked up an education. He had a vivid imagination and commenced writing stories about his experiences. He dramatized tramp life. He enjoyed what he was doing and became a very successful author. I remember one book called Outside Looking In. It was made into a motion picture. He is now famous and prosperous and lives in Hollywood. What opened the secret door to success for Jim Tolley? Dramatizing his life, being interested in what he was doing. He made the most of being a tramp. On the boat, we all sat at the captain's table, which gave us a chance to talk. Mrs. Grace Stone was also a passenger on the boat. She had written The Bitter Tea of General Yen and was going to Hollywood to have it made into a moving picture. She was living in China and was inspired to write the book. That is the secret of success, to make what you are doing interesting to other people. Be interested in yourself and others will find you interesting. A good disposition, a smile, often opens the secret door. The Chinese say, "A man without a smiling face must not open a shop." The success of a smile was brought out in a French moving picture in which Chevalier took the lead. The picture was called With a Smile. One of the characters had become poor, dreary, and almost a derelict. He said to Chevalier, "What good has my honesty done me?" Chevalier replied, "Even honesty won't help you without a smile." So the man changes on the spot, cheers up, and becomes very successful. Living in the past, complaining of your misfortune, builds a thick wall around your Jericho. Talking too much about your affairs, scattering your forces, brings you up against a high wall. I knew a man of brains and ability who was a complete failure. He lived with his mother and aunt, and I found that every night when he went home to dinner, he told them all that had taken place during the day at the office. He discussed his hopes, his fears, and his failures. I said to him, "You scatter your forces by talking about your affairs. Don't discuss your business with your family. Silence is golden." He took my lead. During dinner, he refused to talk about business. His mother and aunt were in despair. They loved to hear all about everything, but his silence proved golden. Not long after, he was given a position at $100 a week, and in a few years, he had a salary of $300 a week. Success is not a secret, it is a system.
Yeah, beautifully said.
I love that. Success is not a secret, it's a system.
Yeah. And I like how it started off with the walls of Jericho, and it is, we think in this world, if I protect myself, I'll be good, I'll be abundant.
That's it.
Quite the opposite. You actually, everything that you need to come into your world for abundance is on the other side of that world, the other side of that wall in which you're putting up. And yeah, I put up strong walls too.
We all do.
And as I started letting them down, letting everyone into my world, all of a sudden I could see the advantage. And what's interesting, it's no longer like things coming to me. It was no longer about that. It was actually the friendships. But because of these friendships, abundance, even in the material, the monetary came to me even more. But it wasn't even about that anymore. It really wasn't. I still have a couple of bricks to get knocked down.
We all do.
Yeah, I keep tripping on my damn thing.
This quote spoke to me, or not quote, this clip spoke to me a lot because I noticed as I began to, do these practices, it was the type of thing where I naturally, when I was like talking with my parents or my family, I less rattled off and discussed what was happening to me during the day-to-day events, and because the details don't matter. And what I mean by that is you hear her talk about this with the gentleman, going back and every day going over his successes, his hopes, his failures, etc. with his family, and kind of replaying and regurgitating the thoughts within his head. And she's saying, "Hey, look, you're all over the place, with this. It's one focus, where you want to keep that attention and let it be." And that is something I naturally started to do when I learned these concepts.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
Yeah, because if you have to explain to someone something that you haven't experienced, you can't.
Yeah.
So if someone like, I'm going to open up a business, going to be highly successful doing this. And the first question is, how are you going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
The truth is you don't know. So go forth and tell no one.
That's it.
But have a vision of yourself of already being that successful, and say it's a business. Now you've been a successful business person for 10 years. How would it feel? How would it look? How would it feel? And then manifest or marinate on the feeling, and then the ways of how we do it, the impulses you act on. But right from the get-go, if I try to explain how I'm going to be successful, I can't. It's like I said earlier. I'm like, my day's going to be amazing. Why is it amazing? I'm like, I'll let you know at the end of the day. I'll tell you the story then. So I go forth and tell no one. Now, at the end of the day, how was your day? It was amazing. If I tell people at 6 o'clock in the morning, how's your day? My day's amazing. It's like, why is it amazing? I mean, you just woke up, I'm like,
I know, I'm breathing.
But I feel it's amazing. There's so much out there because every day preceded every day. And I realize, wow, every day is a gift.
Yeah.
If I feel it's a gift. If I wake up groggy, every day's a curse.
That's it.
Yeah. But trying to explain it, what happens is people want to know. And in the interim of you trying to explain it, you lose it. You're like, you know what? I can't explain it, so why am I bothering with this business?
That's it.
I'm done.
We think because we can't use the analytical thinking mind, the left side of the brain, to write out step by step how or why something is a certain way, then it does not exist and it is not true. And this is a weird conditioning that we developed since we were children because of school.
Yeah, and in some cases, we thank the friend for talking out us, put investment into yourself. Like, hey, thank you, because I would have went along and done that. And according to the conversation, I would have failed. And meanwhile, then you tell, thank you for telling me the truth about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then years later, you find out that they tell a story about something like, holy shit. And then you go back to the idea, just don't call that friend again. Because,
that's it. A lot of us get talked out of, great ideas or what could be, a beautiful, business, flourishing business, great job, whatever, because we don't know how I'm going to do this.
No one ever
steps.
did.
Yeah,
no one ever did.
And it really clicked for me one time because I was like, when those guys, I don't even know their names, but the guys who invented the airplane.
The Wright brothers?
Yeah, thank you.
They were the first ones.
How out there that concept would be, hey, I'm going to put a piece of metal into the sky and have it fly us different places.
That concept's been around for a long time. Because even like Leonardo da Vinci was,
I didn't know this.
Yeah, he had diagrams, inventions of like even tanks, helicopters.
Oh, wow.
So the idea of flight has been around a long time. The Wright brothers just in a moment in time where to get parts or manufacturing, if you look at it, and they had the balls to do it, if you think
But how
about
crazy that is, during
based
that time.
on where we are right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, hey, Elon Musk is building a rocket to get us to Mars. How crazy is that, so to speak? But now we're at this really interesting time where the saying is be on the right side of history. So what does that mean? Being right side of history doesn't mean you become gullible and do everything that someone says or believe in everything someone says. You just don't deny it. But for you and your purpose, you actually want to look into it and see where you fit into it. So someone says, oh yeah, one day we'll just have a flying car or you can walk through this doorway and you'll actually go into a portal and you can end up anywhere in the world. I'm like, wow, interesting. But I'm not waiting for that to happen. I'll still go to the airport and get on an airplane. But I no longer sit there and argue the denying of this thing because that puts me in a negative state. I don't care. I'll watch shows on this. I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. I don't necessarily share this with a lot of people. I find it intriguing. Why? Because it's not me who discovered this. Until I could walk into a portal, which actually we do every moment of every day. Because I walk from here to here, I literally disappear from here and end up here. And every step is a quantum leap. But people are like, well, I want to be from here to here. I'm like, well, you just have to compact time and get into the physics of it. But I still like the understanding of travel. One day I'll just click my heels. I'll be in Paris having
whatever.
A cafe, and then after that go to Maui and surf. But I was talking like about this. Like, imagine every house had a like a portal in it. Like, you open the closet, you walk into it.
Hell yeah.
Now, my dad being my dad, like, I put like board shorts on and thing like, yeah, I'm going to Maui, and he would get in there and rig it to where I end up in Antarctica and with freaking shorts on, like, son of a bitch.
And your dad would so do that.
Yeah, I'm sitting there freezing my ass off because I'm expecting Maui.
That's definitely the future, though.
Yeah. But it's here and now. And what I mean, it's here and now. Just thinking about this and having fun with it, like when we were children, we did this. In the present moment, just talking about having that is what created the joy. I don't need to have that. Now, if I'm waiting for this to happen, like I've talked about this before, if I was waiting to walk on water, I'm going to be somewhat begrudging. So I get to the point where 30 years later, I finally learned the physics of how to walk on water. And guess what I'll do? I'll bitch about how my shoes are getting wet. The only moment that we ever have to be happy is the present moment. And in the moment of being happy, you're going to get impulses that might lead you to creating the portal in your closet. Just make sure your dad doesn't get the key to it.
Get in
Especially
there.
my dad gets the key to it. You might not end up where you want to go. But just knowing I could imagine it and think about it will generate a great feeling. And all of a sudden, I may never invent the portal. I may never find the portal, but I create a great business that helps millions of people. Wow. This is how it works. Mm-hmm. So when I feel good, in that state of feeling good, I get impulses, pure impulses. Because in the state of feeling bad, I get impulses too, but those are impure impulses. So it's distinguishing the difference between a pure impulse or an addictive impulse. They're both impulses, but once we understand, I'm like, okay, if I'm angry and I get an impulse to do something, I refrain from doing because I know enough to know this is going to actually make it worse. You get angry and you punch the wall. Now you got to work. You got to repair the sheetrock, right? And you probably have a broken hand, right? So when I get angry, I'm like, okay, boom, just diminish. I do no action, all right? But when I feel great and an impulse says, go do this, I don't question, I do it. You know, oh, no, I have to do this first. Like, no. The universe would not send you an impulse if they want you to do this first. Go do this. And guess what happens? You might do this, and the thing you had to do first gets dragged into it. Or you go back and you realize I didn't have to do that. Whatever happens, it's amazing.
There's a lot of letting go behind that process, too, because you're right. You know, as these opportunities open up in front of you, the thinking mind, you know, the conditioned mind will say, you know, oh, I still need to do A, B, and C before I can do that. No, that opportunity would not have opened up if you were not meant to step into it at that moment. Yeah. And we've got these grandiose ideas in our heads that things have to do. This must be accomplished before this can, and I've got to do this before this will even work. And that's not the truth at all. No. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The only thing making that true is your belief upon it. And so by believing that A, B, and C must be accomplished, you can't get to D yet. And you can go from A to D, no problem. And that's through the word. That's through the subconscious mind. That's through, you know, this whole experience that we call reality. My favorite line of that clip was the first line. And what did she say? She said, I wrote it down. Nobody goes up to somebody who fails and asks them what the secret of your failure is. Yeah. You know, like we go up to people who are successful, you know, oh, how did you achieve success? How did you accomplish this? But nobody goes up to somebody failing and says, you know, hey, how did you fail? And it's so funny because we project that, oh, we know why you're failing. You know, it's because you're not doing these. And we're running this set of scenarios through our head. And they're saying, you know, I already tried that. And so it's this very twisted mental game, if you will, of you can or you can't. You're both right. I forgot who it was. I think it was Emerson who said that. Ford. Oh, it was Ford? Yeah. And that is such a powerful quote, you know. No matter if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Yeah. And so, like Florence mentioned a quote that she put a quote, but based off of the Chinese, like, you don't open up a shop unless you have a smile. I love that. So what's a smile? It's a feeling, not a doing. So a lot of times, if you ask someone why they're successful and they start saying, I did this,
there's successful people that don't really know why they're successful, so they'll tell you why I did this, this, and this. The truth is, it's not what they did, it's how they felt. And when they felt great, the impulse came to do. Because I can have 600 or 600 successful people up on stage. They're all going to tell a different story how they got there. Mm-hmm. They all do. But the one common theme is they felt it was possible. And when you feel it's possible, you're going to get excited. And if you're going to get excited, I'm going to get impulses to go do this. And I go do this. Well, how is this going to start my business? I don't know. Let's go get the cup of coffee with the friend. And all of a sudden you're talking about, you trust your friend. I'm talking about the business. All of a sudden behind you is like, hey, I'm looking for an investor. Mm-hmm. I'm an investor. I'm looking for something to invest in. And your idea sounds really good. That's how it works. And you could have never logically figured that out.
Ever.
No. You can't.
So that more of that letting go allows for these opportunities to just fall right into our lap, and it's beautiful.
Yeah, like get into the state, and then the impulse would come.
It's funny. I always tell people I never heard a successful person getting up and saying, "Hey, every morning I woke up thinking that I sucked, that life, was hard, and that I wasn't going to make it." That's not the recipe for success. So if you find yourself waking up and it's this grudge, you're pulling yourself through the day. That's what we're talking about letting go of.
Yeah,
it's just a simple flip of the channel or change the tuning to today something great could happen. And then it gets a little easier, and then it's today is a great day, and you just you're moving the ball in the right direction, but. These words that come from our mouth when we speak, they are so powerful. We are casting spells why every time we speak. And this is where spells come from, spelling, spells, etc. All this stuff. There's no difference between a spell, a prayer, and an affirmation, any of that. It's all the same thing. You are directing the energy. You're making a statement, and you're bringing that statement to life. Yeah. So you wake up each day, and you're like, God, today's going to be horrible. Yes, it is going to be horrible. So be conscious of how you're speaking to yourself.
Yeah, and again, to like what Mike started out the conversation with, there are people that had success in their life, part of their life, that woke up every day saying, my life sucks. But they didn't have totalitarian or complete, I should say, success in their life. They might have had a great talent, whether a musician, an artist, Vincent van Gogh.
That's a great example.
Vincent van Gogh had a great talent.
And he was miserable.
He was miserable, yeah. So, but he didn't see that talent. But when he was in the midst of like being in a field and, painting his sunflowers or looking up at the night sky and doing the starry night, he was probably lost. In that moment, he wasn't thinking that he was miserable. His life sucked. But mostly he went through that. People are like, yeah, it's a very interesting thing. So we're talking about don't measure your success on anything, because I cannot compare my success to somebody else's success, because that's already been done. And this is how we get caught up in it. Because there are people that know they're successful compared to other people, but they still feel miserable and they don't know why.
Yeah,
it's because
that's the chase.
It's because you think you need more, you need more, you need more. I'm like, you're gonna get more. Just like when I eat breakfast, I don't think about dinner, but dinner will come and I'll eat dinner. I'm always going to be hungry, so to speak, but I don't worry about it the next meal at the meal I'm in, and it just naturally comes. So you surrender to the moment. You actually be in the moment, and you don't judge what success is. Success is a feeling, not an outward accolade. But that feeling, and along with the doing, will create an accolade that people noticed. It will come. You'll see it. But once you do the accolade, once you do the painting, once you write the song, once you write the book, you move on to the next.
Well, I want to touch on something too. So people say, well, what do you mean? Like, people don't consider that successful, or people. This is a very thick, conditioned factor that we experience. The outside world, if you are trying to please the outside world, if you are looking for others to validate your success or validate who you are, you will never find happiness, because it doesn't start from out here. It's not, oh, did I do well? Do I deserve praise, etc. And this is how we learn growing up. So this is why we're looking to the outside world. We go through school. Did I get the answer right? Great. You get an A. You're looking for that type of feedback. But that's not what this reality is. And so if you're looking for others to tell you who you are, you will always find yourself never at your full potential.
Yeah. Like, in other words, if you're an actor and your goal is to win the Academy Award, you're going to have a miserable career, even if you actually get on the stage 5 times. But if you're an actor and you just want to get lost in a role, whether you win the Oscar or not will have no bearing. But people will notice. Trust me, people will notice. There are amazing actors out there, and some of them are character actors. You watch the movies, and they're no closer to winning the Academy Award, but they don't care. They don't care. And I'm like, wow. And then you watch the people winning the award. I'm like, they won the award? Just like when I see people get the Nobel Peace Prize, I'm like, that guy won the Nobel Peace Prize? I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm giving up on that goal.
Take that off the list.
Goal, yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, imagine.
Imagine what?
No, I'm like up there. I'm like, yeah, I want you to talk, and I don't want the Nobel Peace Prize, but here I am.
But here I am.
Yeah, but that should never be the goal. If it is the goal, it'll be difficult chase, and you can. Hey, what? You go for that, you'll soon find out that's not the way to go. It's like chasing your tail.
That's it.
It's the moment in which you're in. Get lost in it. Actually, what actor was that? Oh my God, I forgot. My brain's going today.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was a Lincoln lawyer.
Oh, McConaughey.
Yeah, Matthew McConaughey.
McConaughey.
He talked about that like early in his career, and I actually watched one of his first movies.
I like him. He's
and
funny.
It wasn't that good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, his acting was. But again, he just started out.
Yeah.
And he goes, when I was trying to win the award and be the best actor, I was horrible. And when I stopped trying to be the best actor and just simply he became an amazing actor. So when you look at his career, like I think it was, I don't know if it was his first movie, but the movie was, the
first movie I saw by him was Dazed and Confused.
Yes, Dazed and Confused.
Okay.
And when you watch that, it's a very awkward role, especially too, because when I watched it, I had seen him in other things. So I already seen him at, it probably listed to Eddie Van Halen when he just first picked up the guitar. I'm like, damn, that sucks, compared to where he was.
Yeah.
Now, if I watched that first, I don't know if I would have had I would have never noticed him.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never noticed it. But and Ben Affleck was in that too.
Yep.
Same thing. It was an awkward movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
That high school experience.
It was awkward, but it was awkward because I've seen these actors in other roles prior to seeing this because my timeline was different in seeing that. So I was like, have you seen that movie? I'm like, no, I never did. And they're like, oh, it's kind of like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and I watched. I'm like, this is nothing like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah,
it's just a sucker in the head saying that, like Fast Times. That was an amazing movie.
That was a great movie.
But anyway, then Matthew McConaughey, when he stopped, and this is his words, when he stopped trying to be the best actor, he became one of the best actors, the greatest actors.
I love that so much.
Yeah, and that's what Florence. It's all she's talking about in all of her books. I think she has like 5 in total. I think 3 of them prior, and one right up to the moment in the year in which she died.
So her first book, the what is it? The Game of Life and How to Play It.
Yeah,
that was awesome. There's a second book that she did, which was called like Your Word is Your Wand, and that's like about obviously your spoken word, what you say, you're bringing to life, you are creating, and I thought that was powerful. I wrote down the third one. I don't remember the name of the third one. The Secret Door to Success.
Yeah.
And then her 4th and 5th book were published after she died, right?
Yep.
And
it was a culmination of
the
stuff
4th
there.
and 5th was The Power of Spoken Word, and then The Magic Path of Intuition.
Yep.
And so, again, the power of our word, what we're speaking about, what we're talking about, we're bringing to life.
But how we feel about it, not because I could say a word, and a lot of times now when I do public speaking, I'm doing talks in front of people, and I mention certain words, I know there's a multitude, like the word God.
God, yeah, that's the strongest.
So
a lot of
if
emotion.
I'm going to use the word God, I'll define it in how I see it in the moment, and then you'll see like people, oh, okay. If you define it that way, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah. So So it's how the definition I hold to the word and when I speak it is really, you have to put two together. How I feel about the word in which I'm speaking is where the power comes from, not just the word just like blanketly or blandly spoken. Because if someone's like, oh, if it's the word, I could just say I'm wealthy. I'm like, you got to feel it when you say it. Like, oh, I'm wealthy. And if you feel it, you need to just say it once. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, wow. And then it permeates out into the universe. But how I feel is what creates an electromagnetic field off my body. So it's like it's like a boomerang, right?
Yeah.
That was
Oh, she's got a quote. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of her other quotes. What was it?
Life is like a boomerang? Or?
Yeah, the game of life is a boomerang.
Yeah.
And it brings it back to you.
Yeah, so whatever you put out is what you get back. Because obviously anyone...
That was law of attraction back in 1871.
Yeah, I remember as a kid getting a boomerang, and I watched it like a guy throw it and it comes back to you. I'm like... I never really perfected it. Yeah. It would come back my way. I would throw it. It would come back my way, but I had to run for it.
I'll see mine just would never come back.
Never come back.
Never.
That was called a frisbee.
I know. No, I remember trying to use a boomerang when I was a kid. I got somebody bought me one from Australia or something weird, and I remember thring it.
Was it from
and
Australia?
It was.
All right.
Somebody brought it back. It was like a gift to me.
Oh,
I
really?
couldn't even picture it in my eyes.
Because I was saying maybe it was made in China. It never came back.
But I remember throwing this thing, and it would just like a ball, just fall. And I'm like, all right, I'm doing something wrong.
There's a technique. You can actually do it with a
There is
frisbee,
a technique.
too.
There is a technique.
You could take a frisbee up and throw it in a certain angle. It'll come back to you.
There's totally a technique.
But yeah, so how you feel and what you put out there, you'll get directly back in the form in which the world shows you the form.
Absolutely.
So if you get something like, how the hell did this happen? Like, well, you amplified something that day. And so when life is not working out, I check how I'm feeling.
See, I love it because, so Florence Scovel, she's talking about this she uses biblical references, which allowed her to kind of navigate this, okay, we'll let that slide type of pass, during this time period. But those who are seeing
people,
that would be considered witchcraft, things that she's talking about, it'd be considered spells, etc., and things like this. And they're both the same. And it's funny because this method works, and so did these spells, these so-called witches were casting upon people, and then we burned them at the stake. This analogy right here really helped me personally, open up and understand what was going on. Is I was like, oh my God, witches were just bringing to life the word and experiencing and knowing it would work. And that belief, that knowing, would bring it to reality and bring it to life. No different than a prayer, no different than, a number of these different, analogies that we have for this reality. But I just, I think it's very cool that we can see this contrast between somebody like Florence Scovel and then that of witchcraft and wizardry.
Yeah, exactly. Because there are people that study that.
But
stuff.
Even back in that time, that was like a thing.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny that.
But by her using the Bible, alleviated.
That's it. It made it not a thing.
So okay, I never looked at it that way, and the fact that she's mentioned the Bible and how people would thought, and I'm Christian. There's a relatability.
Well, I'll see it with my parents, for example. When I'll talk about these different concepts and stuff, I'll use the word God with them when I'm talking about certain things, or I'll talk about certain concepts and reference, Jesus as an enlightened teacher. And of course, I couldn't agree more, absolutely. But then I'll bring it up from a universe or a source perspective, and they'll pause or think about it, or things like that. When if I were to just say it from the Word of God, absolutely, it's these levels of conditioning that we have and what we've grown up with, etc. As to how we look at something. So when Frank was talking about somebody, being taken back by the word God, we've got this built up aggression towards, I know this is a fake story and blah, 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 blah. And it's look, we're not trying to feed you the story that, Catholicism, Christianity, and all these things were built upon. But the truths that they came from, that these stories came from, are absolutely truth.
Yeah, it still exists.
And they very much so exist. In fact, they are, as Florence Scovel Shinn calls them, universal spiritual laws.
Yeah.
What Frank and I and what Florence is talking about, what we're all talking about, is spiritual law. These are universal truths that will not change for millennia, and they have not changed since millennia.
Yeah, and I think as we get to understand these laws more, like whatever religion you're in, and even people that condemn religion will slowly stop condemning religion. To condemn something means you don't fully understand it. All right? I can't condemn anything because I don't fully understand everything. But as I step back and I look at these laws, I could see, wow, I was being taught this in Catholic school.
Yep.
You know, in RE and even going to church on Sunday. But because I didn't understand it, I'm like, this is malarkey.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
what we
and then-
did.
Yeah, it was malarkey. And then all of a sudden you get out there, and I heard people say, oh, I'm recovering Catholic. And I'm like,
I've heard that term
yeah,
my
I
whole
know
life.
it's funny. You know, like, but now my point, I'm like, no, I'm like, if you didn't go through this religion and that religion, what viewpoint would you have? And then when you come back, it's like a full circle how life is. And like, wow, can I blame the teacher or blame myself for not paying attention? It's like blaming Karen because she didn't speak directly to me when she told me she needed sweet potatoes from the store.
Which you probably have done.
She did.
Frank.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, did you text me?
This is not my fault.
Not my fault.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I'm blaming her for me not paying attention. And I'm like, it doesn't really get you far. Cause,
that's actually a great example because
Yeah.
we all do that shit
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
well,
like-
did you do this? like
Yeah.
that matters.
Yeah, it's like, no, I said we need sweet potatoes 3 times. And you nod your head and said, no worries,
And
honey.
confirmed.
But then I'm like, you should have texted me. So now I'm blaming her for my inability to pay attention.
Yeah.
And so, so anyone out there that's knocking a religion, or I'm not saying you have to go into religions. There are,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that. But
Knocking it does no good.
it doesn't. Actually, when I'm knocking something, it takes me away from the direction in which I want to go.
That's it. You're
I
falling
don't-
off the
Yeah,
path.
I don't get into these conversations. Oh, let's talk about this. I'm like, is this gonna take me to the promised land, or is it gonna take me to hell? Like,
Great, very
Yeah.
well said, because like that's the whole gist of all of this is,
Yeah.
guys, whatever direction you want to go, everything else you allow it to fall away because
Yeah,
it does not
yeah,
concern you.
yeah.
It does nothing to further you the growth of the direction that you are trying to expand into.
Yeah.
So people will be like, well, what about this and what about this, and don't you hate this? And it's like, well, sure, I don't like that. You know, I wouldn't prefer something like that to happen, but I know if I focus on it, I'm only going to continue to experience more and more of that.
yeah.
So I let go of it and I move towards the direction I would like to flow.
Yeah, it'd be like if I was driving out to San Diego and from Arizona, and I had to stop at every truck stop just for the sake of stopping. It would be
Daunting task.
very daunting.
Yeah.
But if I can actually not stop at all, it could. It's nice. It's flow. It's just move. All right. Now, unless I have to go to the bathroom or something, that's a different story. But that's what we do is we sit there and have these discussions on something that has no bearing on the day in which I'm going in. You get caught up in it, and you wonder why you feel like, it's like, oh, that doesn't-
Tired.
Yeah, like, oh, I got caught in this conversation today. I'm like, you didn't get caught in the conversation. You're the one who freaking jumped
It
into the
caught
net.
you, yeah.
Yeah. I'm like, you gotta take responsibility. It wasn't that person that started the conversation. It wasn't the truck stop's fault that I kept stopping at the truck stop. I could just drove on by.
Well, this is also why phrases like, you don't talk religion and politics. This is why things like that come up, is everyone's got their own little viewpoints, et cetera, and they know that it's going to cause somebody to feel a certain way. And
Yeah.
all of these concepts are just so funny to me. I don't know. When I hear that phrase, I'm like, okay,
Oh, yeah.
we can't discuss politics and
Yeah.
religion.
You can-
Why? Because there's different viewpoints. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and there's always be, you can get two people that are politically sound, or should have the same political view, same religion, whatever, and give them 15 minutes, they'll be arguing
Yeah.
because you're looking at it wrongly. It's people like you is what
You
gives
have-
us a bad name. It's like, geez. So yeah, I don't go down that road.
It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. So, but you tell me your aspirations. Tell me your aspirations. Tell me your goals. Tell me what's exciting. Oh, I'll just add to that. Oh yeah, that's cool. But you tell me how you believe. A belief is something you really aren't certain about. Like, hey,
There's a belief and then there's knowing.
Yeah, there is. There exactly. Like, Are you coming to dinner tonight? I believe I'll be there. If I told it to Karen, she'd be like, what do you
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, I was like, I know I'll be there.
Is the sun going to come up tomorrow? I believe so.
I believe it's going to come up.
It's like,
I
come
believe.
on.
Yeah, belief
There's
is
certain
kind of
things we
like,
know.
it's a belief allows you to step into the knowing, but a belief is a wishy-washy thing.
Mm-hmm.
So just go into what you know, and everything else in the exploration is the unknowing. And the unknowing, I know enough to step into the unknown and experience that. It's like, wow, this is exciting.
Well, this is where the doors begin to really open up for you.
Yeah. So when we start to affirm something, feel it as if you already have it. And that's kind of what Florence is talking about.
And the reason the doors start to open, too, is you're not making... and any time we solidify something in our mind and say, this is how this works, this is how this is, that makes it into something. It breaks a thought down into matter and creates something real. And so to assess a situation or say today is going to be a busy day or today is going to be a rough day, that's you solidifying the how the rest of the day is going to play out for you.
And even if you had a rough day yesterday, what was rough about yesterday is going to be different than today.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what it is so when we actually allow our perspective to continue shifting, in every shift is a doorway, is a portal. But if I don't allow it to shift, I'm stuck in the very room in which I'm in because I haven't created the portal or the doorway.
I forgot who said it, but every time your heart beats, it's a new moment.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
It is.
Every moment is, and every breath you take is a new moment. And to think that you need to carry it.
Every breath you take. That was a funny song.
Yeah.
Like,
but you know what I mean? Like, we think like, oh, because this happened 2 days ago, I still must carry this story of the pain or whatever, or the suffering or the angst. And no, it doesn't. You can let go of it right in this moment.
You can. And it's just about letting go and being present and having no thoughts or no preconceived notion onto what's supposed to happen. If you just allow it. Now, it's amazing when you step into it, everything that happens is exciting. But we think we know enough to know this shouldn't happen. I'm like, that's the wrong side of history, people.
Yeah.
Well, it's the wrong side of history because we are at a point right now where things are happening and moving so quickly. No one is really saying that's impossible. They're like, Elon Musk, I'm going to make it to Mars. Like, when? Well, if he said that back in the 40s, they'd be like, you're going to Mars. I'm like, this guy needs to be locked up.
Seriously.
This guy is just freaking out of his mind. We could barely make it to the moon. You want to make it to Mars? But yet it's like, okay. And then I hear people like, well, he can't make it that way. He can't make it this way. And I'm like, oh, and you know the way to get there, right?
Yeah, dude.
You know the way to get there.
It's so funny when people do that.
Yeah.
I read these 3 articles online.
Yeah,
and
it's not going to work. It's not going to happen. It's like, no, yeah.
It's like, cool.
Because if you knew, you'd be there, for one.
Yes.
And you wouldn't be knocking. You wouldn't waste your time on it. I'm like, when he tells me he's going to get to Mars, I'm like, interesting.
Anybody knocking
I'm just trying to get to the grocery store so I can pick up those freaking sweet potatoes for Karen. Mars ain't going to help me right now.
Seriously. Yeah. Anybody knocking anyone.
You're on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah, don't buy into it. This is how people actually get into cults.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's the opposite of knocking. You think this person is your savior. I'm like, no one's your savior.
No.
You are your savior. Yeah. So don't follow someone off, and you're either denying everything or you're believing everything. I'm like, that doesn't work. Just step forth and pick up your sweet potatoes, and there won't be problems at the dinner table.
Step forth and pick up your sweet potatoes. Hell yeah!
Yeah.
The New Age, New Age biblical scripture by Frank, the Book of Frank.
Yeah, sweet potatoes.
Go forward and don't forget your sweet potatoes. I love that. Chapter 3 of the Book of Frank.
Yeah.
Amen.
The Book of Frank. Yeah. I heard that book was edited out years ago.
Yeah, I heard they took that one out.
Yeah.
So we got another clip?
Yep. Here we go.
Let's jump into it.
Check it out.
Anything can happen overnight. Robert Louis Stevenson, in A Child's Garden of Verses, says, "The world is so full of a number of things. I'm sure we should all be as happy as kings. So let us look with wonder at that which is before us." That statement was given me a number of years ago. I mention it in my book, The Game of Life and How to Play It. I had missed an opportunity, and felt that I should have been more awake to my good. The next day, I took the statement early in the morning. I look with wonder at that which is before me. At noon, the phone rang, and the proposition was put to me again. This time I grasped it. I did indeed look with wonder, for I never expected the opportunity to come to me again. A friend in one of my meetings said the other day that this statement has brought her wonderful results. It fills the consciousness with happy expectancy. Children are filled with happy expectancy until grown-up people and unhappy experiences bring them out of the world of the wondrous. Let us look back and remember some of the gloomy ideas which were given us. Eat the speckled apple first. Don't expect too much, then you won't be disappointed. You can't have everything in this life. Childhood is your happiest time. No one knows what the future will bring. What a start in life. These are some of the impressions I picked up in early childhood. At the age of 6, I had a great sense of responsibility. Instead of looking with wonder at that which was before me, I looked with fear and suspicion. I feel much younger now than I did when I was 6. I have an early photograph taken about that time grasping a flower, but with a careworn and hopeless expression. I had left the world of the wonders behind me. I was now living in the world of realities, as my elders told me, and it was far from wondrous. It is a great privilege for children to live in this age, when they are taught truth from their birth. Even if they are not taught actual metaphysics, the others are filled with joyous expectancy. You may become a Shirley Temple, or a Freddie Bartholomew, or a great pianist at the age of 6 and go on a concert tour. We are all now back in the world of the wondrous, where anything can happen overnight, for when the miracles do come, they come quickly. So let us become miracle conscious and prepare for miracles, expect miracles, and we are then inviting them into our lives. Maybe you need a financial miracle. There is a supply for every demand. Through active faith, the word and intuition, we release this invisible supply. I will give an example. One of my students found herself almost without funds. She needed $1,000, and she had had plenty of money at one time and beautiful possessions, but had nothing left but an ermine wrap. No fur dealer would give her much for it. I spoke the word that it would be sold to the right person for the right price, or that the supply would come in some other way. It was necessary that the money manifest at once. It was no time to worry or reason. She was on the street making her affirmations. It was a stormy day. She said to herself, "I'm going to show active faith in my invisible supply by taking a taxi cab." It was a very strong hunch. As she got out of the taxi at her destination, a woman stood waiting to get in. It was an old friend, a very, very kind friend. It was the first time in her life she had ever taken a taxi, but her Rolls-Royce was out of commission that afternoon. They talked, and my friend told her about the ermine wrap. Why, her friend said, "I will give you $1,000 for it." And that afternoon she had the check. God's ways are ingenious.
Yeah, that goes back to, because in the beginning of that, talking about Jesus expressed become childlike. And it's true. I was just at
Stations of the Cross?
well, not Station Cross, but yesterday at Easter, one of Karen's nephews is graduating high school. And a lot of the adults like, "Oh, enjoy this year." Because then it gets, and I looked at him like, no, life didn't get really good for me until I understood.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm like,
I feel like I'm enjoying life more and more every day.
yeah, and I don't want to put an age on it when I started doing that. It was when I woke up and realized, oh my God. I remember when I was graduating high school, my parents had like a little party for me.
Yeah.
And one of my dad's friends here was like, "Hey kid, enjoy this time of your life. It's gonna be the best time of your life." And I'm thinking like, I'm filled with freaking anxiety. I'm like, "What, are you kidding me? Like, holy shit, what's out there? It's
this is the best time.
Yeah, like this is the best time." I'm like, I hope that's not true. And the truth is, this is the best time. It had nothing to do with high school, had nothing to do with the age. This moment in time is the best time. When was the best time of your life? And now I can answer it's now.
This moment.
But that's only from the childlike state. And what's the childlike state? The child, has an innocence of ignorance, of not knowing this ought not to work out. So the kid proceeds with the dream and moves it and watches it works out. Until someone says, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Well, that can't be done. What do you mean can't be done? And then the person talks them into why it can't be done.
And then as soon as they believe it,
Yep.
it no longer can be done.
Yep. And they give up on it. Until further later, they become back to their childlike state. Now, childlike state isn't about going back and reminiscing of your childhood. It's a state of innocence, of getting back to realizing, how do I get that? I know too much. I'm like, well, you know very little. I don't know enough to know that today should not be a great day. Well, was yesterday a great day? I'm like, yes. But even if yesterday was a miserable day, this isn't yesterday. This is now. This is today. And the statement of today is going to be a great day is all I need. And then what happens? No one knew. The kid didn't know when they ran out the house with the jacket in the hand because mom said, put your jacket on. Ran out the door, went into the woods, and showed up at dinner time. It was an amazing day. And if you ask them to calibrate or actually dictate back what they did, they could tell you everything they did. But that's not what made a great day, because they didn't know they were doing that. It's not like they get up, they go to the friend and hang out like on the street corner and like, okay, let's make a plan for today. Let's write this down. First, this is what we're going to do. We're going to climb that tree, go up and down once or twice. Like, let's do it 3 times. Hey, stick to the plan, all right, buddy?
We know the 2 words.
Yeah. And, after a while, you won't have many friends, right? But we, as I say this, you hear it. It's humorous because this is actually how we live. We get into business. We have board
Every
meetings.
day.
We have board meetings. Let's sit down and talk about this. I'm like, imagine turning a boardroom meeting into a meditation meeting, and you get into the feeling. So when we get actually into this pure feeling in a state of bliss or just calmness, you become more intuitive. Intuitive means inside information, not outside information. Outside information is old. Inside information is new for this new moment. So when I become more settled down, let go of what's supposed to happen, I naturally become more intuitive. And when the intuition comes in, I act on it. It's gonna change the bottom line of my company.
Absolutely.
And I was like, wow, this works. I'm like, yeah. So who here likes to be at this meeting? And they're like, oh my God. Because I always ask people, like, they come in, like, I have to be at a meeting. I'm like, hey, because I don't do meetings. Like, I have gatherings that we talk about business and excitement thing. But whenever time I have a meeting, like I've had meetings before, all of a sudden everyone's talking about what's not working. And it drives me nuts. I'm like, are we going to sit here and complain about this little speck of dust on the floor when you're in the freaking marvelous building? Mm-hmm. But they feel they need to complain if they're at a meeting. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, all right, this is why I don't like meetings. But every day I'll ask me, how's it going? It's going great. All right, there you go. Yeah, if you notice something, whatever. Like, well, if you notice something, I'm like, what'd you do to eradicate it? Mm-hmm. Well, I'm telling you. I'm like, all right, I'll take care of it. But, once I see something like, oh, it's out of place, I go take care of it. I don't need to worry about someone chasing. If I see a piece of garbage on the floor, I grab it and pick it up. And I notice everyone around me is doing that. Mm-hmm. So the garbage is no longer a problem. It may help me stretch out my back when I went to pick it up. Oh, I'm more limber than I thought.
There's a good perspective.
Because there are days where I'm like, shit, I'm going to kick it out the door.
Kick it out.
Yeah. But I'm like, oh, wow. It's like, I remember one day I dropped something on the ground, and I went to pick it up, and I heard my vertebrae like crack. I'm like, oh, no, but it felt great. I was like, wow, that was amazing. Yeah. So every time stuff falls on the floor, it's like God's like, you need to stretch more, Frank.
Time to crack your back.
So if I would just stretch at the gym more, I would have dropped shit, right? That's the story I tell myself, right? What's
so funny when I heard that clip is, so like growing up, I used to do this all the time, and I think a lot of people do it, but we we'll like hold on to things, and we don't want to use them and experience them because we think we're like saving them. Like a good example I think everybody can relate to is maybe like a cell phone. Like they won't take it out of its case, and they first get that cell phone. It's got to get a screen protector, then a case, etc. before they can use it. And then they never get to really experience this device. Or like maybe you have a nice watch, and it's like, okay, I love this watch.
People did that with action figures.
Well, yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they keep
action
them in a
figures.
box.
You know,
Yeah.
but never gets to, or like your grandma's couch, who wraps that couch with plastic because she never wants it.
That's
to,
crazy.
You know, and
especially
then,
in the middle of summer.
so
in New
nobody's
York
ever
was-
sat on that couch.
Well, you sit on the couch and you feel like
And then
some woman.
35 years later,
Yeah.
that couch is now out of style. So now that couch just gets thrown out. That couch was never used.
Yeah.
It was always this idea of,
Yeah,
and a lot of us
protecting it.
live in this
Yeah.
area of, this is coming, this is what's next, so I'm going to preserve without ever just diving in and enjoying this moment. And I did this all the time growing up. And this is something I've really let go of these last 3-4 years.
He's no longer preserving himself.
I just mean, I'm not like, oh man, if this
Yeah.
gets a
gonna
scratch
wait.
on it or this.
No.
It's like, no, you're never fully tasting
Yeah.
that experience. You're never fully diving in. And I think Florence was kind of, getting at that.
Oh yeah, she was.
You
That's-
know?
And that the thing is, it's the reason I like when I listen to it, where we are in today's
2022.
2022, when you hear some of the reference points from old movies and stuff like that, it shows you these concepts over time never change. The story around it will change, but there is something, and this is why we keep showing you and featuring different people. There is this point that everyone's talking about differently, and that's why I suggest anyone, like, if you're interested in what we're talking about here with Florence Scovel, check out her work. But what will happen is, what I do now is I don't look for the separation, and I look for the correlation. And everyone we're featuring talking about the same thing. They're just doing it differently.
Yep.
And do not try to trace them. Again, just realize the more I hear something, the more connection, the more the brain synapses, the more synapses I have in my brain.
Create new neural pathways.
And what happens is it becomes easier to believe it and then to come know it. Because it's like if I hear it enough times, there's something about this, and then you start to act on it. And when you act on it, it works. Or you go from belief to knowing.
See,
I
that's
know this
great.
works.
That's how I experienced
Yeah.
it too. So when I got into these concepts and when I started, meeting with Frank and talking about these concepts, I started to dive into these different spiritual teachers, spiritual gurus, etc. And that's what I did is I realized, man, we're all talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
And it empowers you because you know it's true. It steps beyond hope. It steps beyond maybes,
Yeah,
there's
beyond
something to this. It solidifies into this knowing.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about some woman born in 1871
Yeah.
putting into practice the same thing that Eckhart Tolle is talking about right now.
But then she's referencing the Bible that was written over 2,000 years ago.
Yep.
So here we are. And then there's been writings like Hermetics has been around for over 5,000 years recorded, or it never changes. They use different terminologies, different parables, or whatever it is. So there's something here that was somewhat
Universal truth.
Yeah, universal truth, exactly. But something that people put the blindfold on it. But I don't get angry or upset. I'm like, life is a Zen master. What's that quote?
Which one?
No man is your enemy.
Oh, yeah. The no man. Let me see.
No man
is your enemy.
No man is your
This
friend.
is, by the way, Florence Scovel Shinn.
Frankly, he's
No-
putting me in there.
There's a Frank mixed with
Yeah.
Scovel. No man is your enemy. No man is your friend. Every man is your teacher.
Yes.
And
And
that's
it-
beautiful.
It is. It's great because everyone is your teacher.
Well, like Maharashi also said this, there is no other. And
Yeah.
so to think that somebody's your friend, somebody's that your enemy, no.
Yeah.
Everything is a mirror of yourself.
Yeah.
Like Scovel's saying here, every man's your teacher. And he's saying there is no other because it's just a projection of you.
Yeah, and the
And
projection.
they're both saying the same thing. There
Yeah.
is no other, and then there is no man, except,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing, just said differently.
Yeah, and if you understand that, and what what he explained, love thy enemy would make sense.
Exactly.
People
Because
like,
it is yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
And as soon as you have that love and you let go of this separation between you and that other, That's when you connect.
Yeah, just become concepts. So why wouldn't you choose a concept that's more preferential to your experience?
That's it. The idea. Why do you think this whole war is going to shit with Russia? Like, come on, we're way too civilized to be at war.
Have you ever seen a war that hasn't gone to shit?
Yeah, great point too. You know,
that's what war does.
Even like the bullshit like war on drugs that we had, which wasn't like a physical. Well, it was in the sense of arrests were made and people were hurt, but we never like warred against another state. But all these concepts of war, battle, etc., they fall. They fall, and there's a reason they fall.
Well, again, what you protest will grow. What you rally against will grow.
Mm-hmm.
What do you rally for, I should say. You don't rally against, you rally for. But what you protest against will grow. What you rally for will grow. What do you want to do? You want to see the thing that you don't want grow, or do you want to move in the direction of the thing that you want to rally behind grow? Get into a rally rather than a protest. And whatever you think ought not to be there will become a blimp, or it'll be so distant from you that it won't even affect your life. And then you actually become a beacon for helping people, right? The richer I become in understanding these philosophies, the richer I become in the monetary place, the easier I can help people get out of poverty and out of misunderstandings of how life is. But if I'm waiting for poverty to end, I'm going to be a miserable bastard.
And as soon as poverty ends, guess what? Now you got to worry about
something else.
This or that. The thing is,
waiting for it. Yeah.
It's never ending.
Yeah.
And to think that, okay,
well, you'll just redefine
we're going to
poverty.
Stop this. Yeah, we're going to stop that. We're going to eradicate this. We're going to take away homelessness. We're going to take away hunger. We're going to take away or make sure everyone has health care. I promise you, there will be another battle for you to fight. Another soapbox to stand on.
All we do is we keep redefining what poverty is. And what I'm saying, if you look at poverty in the 1500s compared to now, the people, if they could walk through a portal and see someone that's impoverished now, I'm like, you got it made.
Yeah.
You got it made.
Great point.
Yeah. So
we totally live like
kings. We keep
kings.
redefining poverty. So I tell people, keep redefining wealth and leave poverty to be. Mm-hmm. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer. Mm-hmm. Which side of history do you want to be on? And the more we move into the direction of that, the more people could pull into it. The field is the sole governing agency of particles we talked about before. What field do you want to expand? You have to be in that. You can't be talking about poverty and expand the field of wealth. You can't. You can't be talking about hatred and expand the field of love. You can't. You can't head west and east at the same time. Choose. But when you head west, and that's the direction you want to go in, east isn't problematic. It isn't.
Well, so Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he always talks about, like you just said it, the rich stay rich and the poor stay poor. But the reason behind that is because of what Florence is talking about, that where their mind is at, where the mental chatter, where the mental talk is at, what they're focused on. Growing up in a rich family, you don't hear people discuss, oh, how could this bill get paid? Do I have the money to pay this? Oh, we can't afford that. Oh, I could never do this, because I don't have the funds to do that. That doesn't exist in a being brought up in a wealthy family. On the flip side, growing up in a poor family, it's very much so conditioned. How do you think we can afford that? What does money grow on trees? All these different, very, very heavy conditioned, ideas that we're surrounded by. And this is why, the wealthy stay wealthy. It doesn't come down to, a lot of people in media twist it as if like the wealthy that the wealthy just hand down this wealth to their kids, or that, people are handed everything and given everything. And that's not so much the case.
What they hand down is the idea.
That's it. And they understand they're not afraid to move forward and try ideas, you know?
But no, there's a lot of lineage of families, to say in America, that how far back do you have to go where the person who started the wealth was told by their parents they're poor. Mm-hmm. So at some point, it's reversible. It's not like, okay, if you're born impoverished, you just have to stay impoverished. Like, there are certain cultures that believe that, so they surrender to it. But that's not true. And in the act of surrendering to it, you're going to experience poverty for the rest of your life. Because you have to change the mind in order to change the outside world. The outside world is a direct resemblance of how you think and how you feel, I should say. Not how you, how you feel will produce the way you think. And if you know it's possible to change it, and we're in a time in history where it's like if you're just half awake, I'm like everyone from like Henry Ford and whatever like started out with nothing and turned into everything, and then his family proceeded on, just expanded the wealth, if you will. They weren't taught poverty, but he came from nothing. A lot of people came from nothing and turned it around. So if you grew up in a household that had nothing, I'm like, you have the advantage that Henry Ford didn't have, and it's called perspective shift now.
And that's the truth, though. Yeah. That's what all of these different teachers are talking about. That same common denominator.
And I imagine someone like him probably came across her book or something like that, and you read
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Talks about all the wealthiest families. He spent 10 years interviewing them all. All they agreed upon.
But
one
think
concept.
about that. He wrote that book after they did that.
Mm-hmm.
But they came into that wealth with this idea. And they didn't have as much information as we have today. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, if we all can do this.
That's the reason we do this show.
Yeah, it's the reason we do this show. I do it for myself. I do
Absolutely.
it to constantly remind myself every day that I am abundant, I'm lucky, I'm this, I'm that.
Mm-hmm.
Until I forget the sweet potatoes. And I'm like, and then Karen reminds me of it. Idiot. Yeah.
I'm so in lack. That's funny as hell.
Enough with the sweet potatoes anyway. Getting hungry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Almost lunchtime.
All right. So, hey, if you liked what we talked about today, definitely check out Florence Scovel Shinn.
Yes.
Really interesting. Again, she has 5 books out there. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube. Check it out.
Yeah, take a listen.
Yeah.
She was a pioneer, especially at the time when she was coming up. It wasn't easy for a woman to say those different things during that time.
It wasn't easy for anyone, let alone a woman. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Just like the conditioned ideas surrounding that time period, and so a lot of powerful stuff that you can take away from it.
Yeah.
Definitely worth the read. Definitely worth checking out. We'll be back next week, guys.
Yeah. All right. Hope you enjoy Perspective Shift.
Enjoy it, guys.
Yep. Peace
Thank
out.
you.